Anna was a 22-year-old girl, with a fairly ordinary life for someone her age. She was in her last year of university, studying audiovisual communication, and also worked as a sales assistant in a clothing store in the city center. She loved what she did, and had always been known for her kindness and infectious smile. Her circle of friends describe her as the typical extroverted girl who had no problem making new friends, always open to enjoying the moment. That night, Anna had planned to go out with her friends to celebrate finishing her semester exams and was ready to disconnect a little from the stress of the last few days. Her two friends, Carla and Marta, suggested she go to a well-known nightclub in the area, called Vertigo. The place was not one of the largest or most luxurious, but it was somewhat famous for its cozy atmosphere and well-prepared cocktails. Furthermore, despite being small, the club was known for its modern and elegant decoration, its dim lights that created an intimate atmosphere, and its crescent-shaped bar, where most of the attendees usually congregated to order drinks or chat. For this reason, Vertigo was frequented by those who preferred to party without the hustle and bustle of gigantic nightclubs, but with just the right touch of sophistication and fun. Anna prepared for the night with the energy that always characterized her. She put on a simple but elegant black dress, accompanied by low heels and discreet makeup. She wasn't looking to impress anyone in particular, but she wanted to look good. After all, it was a chance to relax, dance, and enjoy with her friends. Upon arriving at the club, the atmosphere was exactly as they had imagined. Trendy music, flashing lights, a DJ who knew how to get people going, and a bar staffed by attentive and well-presented waiters. It didn't take long for Carla, Marta, and Anna to find a place at the bar to start the night with a couple of cocktails. The club was full enough to feel the party vibe, but not so full that they felt overwhelmed by the crowd. It was at the bar where Anna met Sergio, a waiter who looked about 26 years old. He was tall, with dark hair combed back and a smile that seemed sincere, the kind that waiters practice to make customers feel comfortable. He was wearing the black t-shirt that all Vertigo employees wore, with the club's logo discreetly embroidered on the chest. Anna, when ordering a cocktail, noticed that Sergio was particularly kind to her. "What should I wear for you, beautiful?" Sergio asked while cleaning a glass with precision. Anna smiled, somewhat surprised by the waiter's friendly tone. It wasn't the first time she had received kind treatment, but the way Sergio looked at her made her feel that there was something more than just professional cordiality. "A mojito, please," she responded, trying to sound relaxed. Sergio nodded with a smile and began to skillfully prepare the mojito. While doing so, he tried to start a conversation with Anna, asking her typical questions such as if it was her first time at Vertigo and how her week had been. Anna responded naturally, finding herself comfortable with the talk. "This is on the house," said Sergio as he handed her the mojito, winking at her. Anna couldn't help but smile, grateful and at the same time flattered. It was a simple gesture, but the fact that Sergio took the trouble to invite her seemed like a good touch. She thanked him and toasted with her friends. From that moment on, Anna noticed that every time she approached the bar, Sergio found a way to greet her or make a nice comment. As the night progressed, Anna and her friends decided to dance. The DJ played reggaeton and pop songs, the hits of the moment that encouraged everyone to move. The dance floor was filled with groups of friends, couples, and people who just wanted to have a good time. Anna enjoyed the moment, feeling that every worry was left behind with every movement. Her friends accompanied her, laughing and singing as they tried to keep up. After a couple of songs, Anna decided to go back to the bar to cool off a little. There was Sergio again, who recognized her instantly. "Another mojito?" he asked with a mischievous smile. "Better something softer this time," Anna responded, laughing. Sergio prepared him a lighter cocktail, a tropical mix with a sweet touch. Again, he offered it to her on the house, and Anna felt more and more comfortable in the situation. There was something about Sergio's attitude that made her feel special that night. He was attentive, not only with her, but with other clients as well, but somehow he managed to dedicate more time to Anna than the rest. As the hours passed, Anna and Sergio continued exchanging looks and words every time she returned to the bar. He managed to slip a free drink into her hands without making it seem too obvious. Anna, amused and a little flattered, accepted without thinking too much. He wasn't usually a big drinker, but he was enjoying the night so much that he saw no reason not to let himself go. At one point, Sergio offered him a shot of tequila. "Come on for tonight," he said, raising the small glass and offering it to her with a knowing smile. Anna, encouraged by the atmosphere of the nightclub and Sergio's friendliness, accepted. The alcohol had begun to have an effect on her, although she didn't realize it. Her friends continued dancing, and she felt good, carefree, enjoying the music, the attention of a nice boy, and the vibrant atmosphere of Vertigo. She didn't notice that Sergio, while they were talking, took the opportunity to observe her carefully, as if studying each of her reactions. The hours continued to pass, and Anna felt that the world around her was becoming more and more blurry. The music was louder, the lights were flashing brighter, and the laughter of the people around him resonated in his mind as if they were in a bubble. Without realizing it, he had lost track of time and space. Her friends had looked for her a couple of times to continue dancing, but she preferred to stay near the bar, talking to Sergio, laughing with him and letting herself be carried away by his friendliness. By the time Sergio finished his shift, it was already after midnight. He approached Anna, who was leaning on the bar, watching the movement of the people coming and going. "My shift is over," he told her, in a voice that sounded more relaxed, less formal. "Would you like to get some fresh air outside for a while?" Anna nodded, thinking that some fresh air would be good for him. The music was already beginning to spin in her head, and the drink she had accepted made her feel light, as if she were floating. She left the club with Sergio, without realizing that her friends were looking for her on the dance floor. The cool night air hit Anna's face as she left the club. He felt a light breeze that contrasted with the heat and bustle inside, something he was deeply grateful for. Sergio guided her to a less crowded corner, where there were a couple of metal benches and some decorative pots. The street was quieter in that area, with only a few people smoking or waiting for a taxi. Sergio lit a cigarette and offered one to Anna, who rejected it with a smile. She didn't usually smoke, and even less so when she had drunk so much. The waiter sat next to her and looked at her for a moment, as if trying to read something in her expression. Anna, her head somewhat dazed by the alcohol, fell on the bench, sighing deeply. "Are you okay?" Sergio asked, with a tone of concern that seemed genuine. Anna nodded her head. "Yeah, I just needed some air," she replied, trying not to sound too affected. The alcohol was beginning to take its toll on his judgment. The night had been fun up to that point, but now she was starting to notice that she was drunker than she had planned. Sergio continued speaking, in a softer and more personal tone. He told her about his job, how he had ended up at Vertigo, and some anecdotes about curious clients he had met. Anna laughed at his stories, becoming more and more relaxed, feeling a strange trust towards him. As the conversation progressed, Sergio took the opportunity to get closer to Anna. He made flattering comments to her, highlighting how well her dress looked on her and how nice she had been all night. Anna was smiling, although part of her was beginning to feel a little uncomfortable with the closeness. But the alcohol continued to cloud her thoughts and downplay the importance of the situation. After a while, Sergio got up from the bench, approached her and held out his hand. "Would you like to take a walk here? It's quieter than inside and we can continue chatting," he suggested. Anna hesitated for a moment, but ended up accepting. He stood up awkwardly, taking a second to regain his balance before following Sergio. The street was half lit, with the dim lights of the street lamps creating long shadows on the sidewalk. As they walked, Sergio continued to maintain a light conversation, trying to make Anna feel comfortable. "You know, when you walked into the bar you seemed different to me from the other girls who come here," he commented, with a smile that seemed sincere. "I was very glad to have met you tonight." Anna, flattered and somewhat disoriented, simply nodded. The words escaped him and he could only focus on not losing his balance. Sergio, aware of her condition, put a hand on her back to guide her, although the gesture was not as innocent as it seemed. After a few minutes of walking, Sergio led her towards a small side alley that led to a nearby park. The place was dark, except for a streetlight that flickered occasionally. Anna felt a little lost and looked around, trying to understand why they were there. "Hey, shouldn't we go back to my friends?" she asked, finally showing some concern. "Don't worry, they're fine," Sergio responded, downplaying it. "Here we are calmer. Plus, I'm sure they're entertained too." Anna felt strange, but Sergio's words seemed to calm her. He moved closer to her, and the tension in the air increased. At one point, he leaned toward her and whispered something in her ear. Anna didn't fully understand what he had said, but before she could react, Sergio moved closer and kissed her. The first kiss was soft, almost exploratory, as if testing if she would respond. Anna, disoriented and confused by the situation, did not know how to react immediately. She was dazed by alcohol and confusion, and couldn't get away in time. Sergio interpreted her immobility as consent, and the kiss became more insistent. The hand she had placed on her back now moved more confidently, and Anna began to feel uncomfortable and scared. "Wait," Anna managed to say, with a weak and broken voice, trying to move away. Sergio ignored her attempt to stop him. He grabbed her by the waist and pushed her against the wall, pressing her against his body. The situation was getting out of control, and Anna felt a wave of fear that paralyzed her momentarily. He tried to get away, but his body didn't respond as quickly as he wanted. Drinks, confusion and fear had made his movements clumsy and weak. Sergio didn't seem to listen to his attempts to stop him. His actions became more aggressive, and Anna, unable to fully understand what was happening, felt helpless and terrified. In a moment of desperation, she tried to push him with all her might, but he was stronger and held her firmly against the wall. The flickering streetlights gave the place a gloomy air, and the empty park offered no hope of help. Anna was trapped, and although she tried to scream, her voice barely came out as a whisper, drowned out by fear and panic. What happened next was a blur to Anna. Pain, confusion and terror mixed in her mind, becoming a thick cloud of fragmented images and diffuse feelings. The only thing clear was desperation and the feeling of not being able to escape. When it was all over, Sergio moved away from her and straightened his clothes with a disturbing calm. Anna, in shock, could barely stand. She felt tears streaming down her face, even though she couldn't even fully process what had just happened. "Don't worry, don't tell anyone and everything will be fine," Sergio said, with a coldness that chilled his blood. Without saying more, Sergio walked away down the alley, leaving her alone in the darkness. Anna stood there, shaking and trying to catch her breath. His body felt like it didn't belong to him, like he was seeing everything from the outside. Time seemed to have stopped, and the night was growing colder and quieter around them. Finally, after a few minutes, Anna managed to gather enough strength to get out of there. He didn't know where he was going, he just needed to get away from that place as quickly as possible. She walked unsteadily, as if her legs could not support her, until she reached the main street. The bright lights and bustle of people gave her back a modicum of reality, but she still felt trapped in a nightmare from which she couldn't wake up. Tears continued to fall down her face, and the people passing by her were unaware of Anna's suffering. To them, she was just another person leaving a nightclub, probably too drunk to be aware of her actions. No one stopped to ask her if she was okay, and Anna didn't have the strength to ask for help. When he finally saw a taxi, he raised his hand in desperation and managed to stop it. He got in without saying a word, and when the driver asked him where he wanted to go, he could barely whisper the address of his house. During the ride, she couldn't stop crying, feeling like her world had fallen apart in a matter of hours. The sun was already beginning to rise when Anna arrived home. The taxi stopped in front of the small apartment building where he lived with his mother. Anna's hands trembled as she took out the money to pay for the trip. His fingers could barely keep the coins in place, and he ended up accidentally dropping them on the back seat. The driver, noticing her condition, simply told her not to worry and let her get off without further questions. He seemed to understand that something was wrong, but he had no intention of delving into it. Anna walked up the stairs to her apartment in a daze. The echo of her own footsteps followed her as she tried to remember the combination to her door lock. When she finally opened it, she tiptoed into her room, without turning on the light, and closed the door behind her. She fell onto the bed, but the physical exhaustion was not enough to calm the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions that consumed her. He closed his eyes, trying in vain to erase what had happened from his mind, but the images kept reappearing like a movie that was repeated over and over again. Hours later, her mother found her in bed, still wearing the same clothes, and her eyes were red from crying. Worried, she asked him what had happened, but Anna couldn't say a word. As her mother hugged her, Anna began to cry uncontrollably. It was then that, between sobs, she managed to tell him part of what had happened. Her mother, horrified and worried, insisted that they go to the police. Although Anna was full of doubts and fear, her mother managed to convince her that reporting was the right thing to do. A few more hours passed before Anna felt strong enough to leave again, this time towards the police station. Upon arriving at the police station, Anna felt like a ghost of herself. He walked to the reception desk with his mother at his side, and the receptionist, noticing his state, gave them a worried look. Anna's mother asked to speak to an officer and explained that her daughter needed to file a report. The officers led them to a small interview room, where an agent sat across from Anna with a serious but empathetic expression. The young woman did not know where to start. She was afraid of not being believed, of being blamed for having drunk so much, of being told that it was her responsibility to have taken care of herself. The officer, with a calm voice, encouraged her to tell her story at her own pace, and little by little, through tears, Anna began to recount the events of the previous night. As Anna spoke, the officer's face hardened. His story was full of fragmented details, blurred memories, and feelings of fear and helplessness. However, what was clear was that Sergio, the waiter, had taken advantage of her condition to take her to a secluded place and attack her. The officer took note of every word precisely, assuring Anna that what had happened was a serious crime and that they would do everything possible to find whoever was responsible. After taking her statement, the police asked Anna to undergo a medical examination to collect evidence. Although just thinking about it made her nervous, she understood the importance of doing it. Her mother accompanied her to the hospital, where a specialized medical team treated her with the greatest possible delicacy. They took samples, recorded any physical evidence, and tried to make the process as non-traumatic as possible. Meanwhile, the police began to investigate the Vertigo nightclub. They visited the location the next day and spoke with managers, obtaining a list of employees who had worked the night of the incident. They also requested security camera recordings. Although Vertigo was a small nightclub, there were cameras strategically placed at the entrance, the bar, and some parts of the dance floor, allowing them to confirm the presence of Anna and Sergio together during the night. The recordings clearly showed Sergio serving Anna drinks, talking to her at the bar and, finally, leading her to the exit. The police also found some witnesses who remembered seeing Anna and Sergio leaving together, which supported their version of events. With this information and evidence collected during the medical examination, officers obtained an arrest warrant for Sergio. The arrest took place in the same nightclub, just 2 days after the complaint. Sergio did not resist when the officers showed up and informed him of the charges against him. He tried to remain calm, denying any bad behavior and claiming that Anna had consented to everything, but the evidence said otherwise. The police handcuffed him and took him to the police station for questioning. During interrogation, Sergio continued to deny any criminal acts. He insisted that Anna was interested in him and that everything had been consensual. However, the evidence against her was compelling. The security cameras, the testimonies, and Anna's condition on the night of the incident clearly demonstrated that she was not in a position to give her consent. Additionally, there was physical evidence to support the sexual assault allegation. Sergio was formally accused and brought to trial. During the court process, Anna had to relive her experience by giving her testimony in front of the court, which was incredibly difficult for her. However, with the support of his mother and a competent lawyer, he managed to remain calm and relate the facts clearly. The judge listened carefully to his testimony and the evidence presented by the prosecution. As the trial progressed, Sergio's defense attempted to discredit Anna, insinuating that she had drunk too much and was therefore responsible for what happened. However, Anna's lawyers countered these arguments with evidence showing that she was not in a position to consent due to her intoxicated state, and that Sergio had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Furthermore, the security camera recordings clearly showed Sergio's insistence in offering her drinks and the way he guided her towards the alley. The trial was a long and painful process for Anna, but ultimately, justice prevailed. Sergio was found guilty of sexual assault and sentenced to a long prison sentence. When the sentence was handed down, Anna felt a mixture of relief and sadness. The experience had left deep scars on his life, but the fact that Sergio was brought to justice gave him a sense of closure. As the months passed, Anna began to work on her recovery. He went to therapy to deal with the emotional and psychological aftermath of the incident. And little by little, with the support of his family and friends, he began to rebuild his life. She decided to get away from the city for a while and moved to live with an aunt in a coastal town, where she found a calmer environment and a space to heal. Time and therapy allowed him to begin to leave behind the night that had changed his life. Anna returned to her studies, decided to specialize in investigative journalism, and eventually found the strength to help other people who had gone through experiences similar to hers. She became an advocate for victims of sexual assault, and her story served as an inspiration to other women seeking justice and healing. Meanwhile, Sergio was serving his sentence in prison, facing the consequences of his actions. Anna learned that he had attempted to appeal the sentence, but the courts reaffirmed the initial ruling, and his sentence remained intact. Sergio's life, which had taken a dark turn due to his own actions, was now an existence marked by loneliness and regret, if he ever felt it. Anna, for her part, continued forward. Although the experience had been traumatic, he refused to let it define the rest of his life. She found strength in her family, her friends, and her own determination to be happy again. And although he could never forget what had happened, he learned to live with it, to accept it as part of his story, but not as the end.